there's no fucking rules, and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And people are out there wanting to go to shows and wanting to be involved and, missing this stuff. So whatever you can kind of do to stimulate some excitement for other people, I think is just adding in general. So.
Okay, you ready to rock? I think we're all set.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We travel literally to the other side of the world. Very excited to have my first Australian guest on the podcast today, Jem from the band Speed. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Spencer.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here.
Of course. And we were just trying to figure out the timing of this, as we are literally we thought we were 8 hours apart, and then we realized that daylight savings kicked in and it was 7 hours. So it's like, I'm going to go to bed in a few hours, but you're literally just starting your day. So very.
I'm up, bro. I'm having my coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you mentioned, you're drinking coffee. Is there anything fancy about your coffee that you want to tell the people at home for the Scoped Exposure Bev check?
Oh man, my girl just bought an espresso machine. This week, I've just been having shots of coffee all week, but we drink a lot of coffee anyway. But I'm having it in this mug here. I don't know if you could see. This is my homie Neil, Cold Neil. He's it says, I like my coffee hot, not cold like Neil. And he's just a legend. Shout out Cold Neil. He's from Melbourne. He's a nature and wildlife photographer now, amazing wildlife photographer. But he sang and played in a whole bunch of awesome Australian hardcore bands.
Very cool.
In the day. So
well,
he's a legend.
Shout out to Neil already.
Shout out Cold Neil.
I love the tone that this podcast already has. I'm not drinking anything really crazy. Just my favorite sparkling water. It's called Aha. It's a lime watermelon. I was drinking. We premiered the flashback scope session, literally like a few minutes before I jumped on the call here with Jem, and this is what I was sipping, and in the process of not overdoing on the bevs, I was just like, I'll just carry this over to the podcast. So So Jem, people listening to this are probably some people on the Australia side, and then our audience over here in like the North American sphere of things. So can you just intro it for the people that might not know the band you're a part of and what you do in the band?
I'm singing a band called Speed. It's from Sydney, Australia. We started pretty much literally 1 year ago this month, I'm pretty sure. Put out a demo a year ago, played a bunch of shows until the world went on pause. And just been cruising since, man.
Yeah. And I'm excited to talk about that, about the demo and kind of how you guys have still been doing shit in a very cool manner, even despite being dealt a hand as far as starting a band in this very weird time. Before we hit on all that, Jem, can you pull back the clock and kind of give me your hardcore origin story? I'm a firm believer in like knowing how people got into these positions of playing in bands and listening to heavy music. So what were kind of those formative years and moments for you that really put you on the path that you're on now?
So I found hardcore through, or my vehicle into the hardcore world was through Australian hardcore. And I guess when I was starting high school, about like 12, 13, I was just at that age where I was just really interested and fascinated by rock music for some reason, and the energy of kind of like being on stage, and like as like a typical Asian kid, I love Linkin Park, bro. So that was like kind of like my entry, like Linkin Park, and then from there, I found out about Parkway Drive just naturally in Australia, and this was around when they were bringing out their like debut take like a kickoff album, Killing with a Smile, back in 2005. And in Australia, the history of hardcore has a very close affinity with like heavy hardcore, moshcore, like metalcore. And so I think that in maybe other countries in the world, and even to a lot of Australians as well, Parkway Drive would probably have this, would resonate as like a metal band, right? But especially for people of my generation, we see Parkway Drive as like a hardcore band because they're hardcore dudes. They come from starting in Byron Bay, and they just started off playing in hardcore bands and playing shows with hardcore bands. And that time, around 2005, 2006, 2007, up until about 2010, they were touring with heaps of Australian hardcore bands. So they would be playing, and Parkway Drive was getting massive, obviously. So they play with, they would be playing massive like arenas and like stages as they were, uh, kind of growing. But they would be touring with hardcore bands all the time. So that's how I found out about hardcore. Was going to see my first Parkway show, and they just played with three hardcore bands, which I just did not understand. But I just fell in love with it from there, bro. And then yeah, obviously, just naturally just started playing in bands, and then I've played in a whole bunch of bands for like the last 10, 15 years now, I guess. And then coming up to about last year, uh, yeah, me and my brother, have had like this bucket list goal of always wanting to do a band. And getting older, I'm kind of conscious, I'm 27 this year, going on 28 next year, and I'm like, shit, man, like I got to tick off these things that I want to do. And I was in another band that I've been like touring a lot with for like the last 10 years, kind of didn't give me much space to. I didn't allow myself much space to do another project. So, anyways, last year I was like, fuck it, I don't know what, do a demo. My brother doesn't even know how to play an instrument. I'm going to teach you how to play bass. I'll write this demo. We'll just put it out. And then that's what we did last year. And then we had a goal. We're like, okay, we got to put out a demo and play one show. And we did it. And then Speed's here today, and that's what we're doing.
There's a lot to unpack there, so let's go bit by bit. When I was prepping for this podcast, I over the years I've definitely learned about a number of different Australian like metalcore and hardcore bands. But if you go back like 6, 7, 8 years, even when I was like first getting into heavy music, the only band that I knew from Australia was Parkway Drive, because they were that band that like put out those DVDs and like showed how like crazy the grind was for them to like play to 40 people, and now they're playing to 4,000 people.
Man.
Is that almost like are they like, I'm sure there's like a little bit of at least respect on the local legends aspect, but is that a misconception that everyone in Australia fucks with Parkway Drive because they are these like metal giants, or is it like people who are local there like no, like Parkway was like instrumental for foundationally setting up Australian hardcore?
I mean, man, at least with my generation and the generation above me, my generation being the guys who were like teenagers, 12 to 15, when they were on the come up, we definitely revere them as legends, and I know in at least in my circle of friends, and I would say that it's definitely widely accepted that they're just seen as legends because they have done an incredible thing for hardcore in Australia, but also just music. Like, they've got to be Australia's biggest music export, or one of, like, definitely top 3 all time for sure, like biggest music exports, like, period. Yeah. I haven't listened really to anything Parkway related since like maybe their third album, and I don't know how many they've got a lot now, but despite whatever they're doing now and wherever they're at, and whatever kind of I guess approach they have to music now, at least what they did for music back before and the way they influenced me, and like those DVDs you spoke of, bro, if they didn't put out, like, those DVDs are the reason why I started playing in bands and like started touring and shit, man. Like, I know for everybody like in my generation, we saw these DVDs, even people who didn't play in bands, they saw that and they're like, I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna do this, because it was, their story is so real, man. They're bodyboarders. They're just like random dudes who do not look like they play in a metal band at all, who just became enormous. And for Australians, who are in such an isolated part of the world, it makes it accessible. It's like, I don't have to look like XYZ, to do this. Like, we can be from Australia and have our own identity and like excel in the world. So it's a real success story, like a real
Yeah, and kind of how you mentioned like you know, as far as like musical, I like when people think of certain areas, they're probably gonna even if they're thinking about bands and artists that they like, when you think of like Canada, obviously bands like Comeback Kid or like Propaganda or No Warning, you know, depending on where you are, but like, you know, Comeback Kid is like, you know, that was the band when I was like locally, like I was going to Comeback Kid shows, but like when people think of like Canada hardcore, they'll go to that. When they think when certain people think about like European hardcore, they'll like go to like certain bands like I don't know, Desolated or like it's all dependent on the genre, right? But like
For sure.
there's you know, I'm kind of the same way where it's like I think I haven't given any of the newer Parkway a listen. I might have like checked out a music video where they're performing on the beach or something like that just for kicks, but nothing but like I got nothing but respect for that band. They've really you know, like showing the grind that it took to get to that level is like I really appreciate that. So
and when you see that, like, you know that you're a hardcore band, you know, like that's not what, like that's the do it yourself kind of just grind, just tour, play as many shows as possible mentality, you know what I mean? And so they're a hardcore band for sure.
I'm sure there's maybe one or two people that have already turned off this podcast because they're like, you know what, Parkway Drive is not a hardcore band.
Fuck it, bro. You got an Australian here. This is an Australian hardcore podcast for this episode.
Yeah, straight up. So you were mentioning some of the origins around speed. And yeah, like as far as the time of recording this, and probably by the time this is out, it's going to be a year as far as when you guys drop the demo. But tell me how that band, like just the idea of that band kind of came together, because it seems like there's some similarities between you and I, not only in age, but also in like the timing of when we wanted to do different things musically and didn't really think about like, well, this guy doesn't know how to play bass yet. And then just like figuring out how to make that happen to play together. So yeah, tell me the origin story behind Speed.
Well, yeah, as I said, it was just this bucket list goal for me and my brother. Especially if I was like, me and my brother like essentially like best friends, and I was like, got to start a band with him. And Aaron, who plays bass in Speed, he got into hardcore like a lot later. We're in the same friendship circle of friends, you know, and everything now. But he got into hardcore probably when he was about maybe started getting hardcore shows like probably about 21, 22, and he started like touring with my previous band, or my other band, sorry, I should say, just coming on tour, taking photos and hanging out and everything, and that's how he kind of fell into it. And I was like, man, we just got to do a band together. And I want to sing in a band too. And, you know, I've always played guitar in other bands and stuff. And I wanted to sing in a band. And the only way I also know how to start bands really is just with the people that you love, you know, the people that your friends and your close circle. Like, that's the only way I've ever known how to do things. So I was like, we'll do a band together. And as I said, he didn't play an instrument, but I was like, that means that you can play bass. So I was like, I'll teach you bass. I'll write this demo, and then we'll get a lineup, and we'll just go. We'll see what happens. And literally that was it, man. So we got Dennis, we got Josh, we got Kane. There's our three other brothers as well. And yeah, it's just literally as simple as who gets the style. Who's close to us. You know, who's someone that's, you know, within our friendship circle that can do this, and, you know, and who else is gets the style and just loves hardcore. It had to be people who loved hardcore, because it was definitely also inspired by I guess the current climate in the hardcore landscape in Australia, because like the last 5 years hardcore kind of taken a bit of a dip, kind of gotten a bit smaller since like Parkway has like fully outgrown the scene, I guess.
They've like matured and gone off to college and married and settled down and have kids.
Yeah. All kind of left behind, you know. So anyway, the scene is like definitely kind of peeled off for a while, and shows got real small, and a lot of tourists kind of started to become a lot less regular. Like it's something that as we get older, I've definitely learned in reflection that this is something that's so important to me. Like going to shows, having a community, having a culture, being a part of something like this. I'm getting older, but this is getting just more and more significant in my life. Whereas you see a lot of other people, they would just feel that like they move on to other things, which is sweet. But I'm not. I can't fake that. I just love this shit. I'm so obsessed and just with hardcore, but also everything that comes with it. So for us to see the scene kind of like peel away for so many years, it was like we got to do something about this. Like you can't like instead of thinking like, oh man, when's hardcore gonna come back, and just like kind of moaning about like hardcore dying or whatever. Like fuck it, let's just do it. Like we can play music and we can offer something, so let's just do it and do a band, because that's the most important thing to fuel a scene, I guess, right? So that was another huge inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah, new bands in every scene is so vital. Like because if it's the same bands, like people are gonna get tired of seeing the same bands. Those bands are gonna get tired from just playing these like low level like local shows. And it's always like a band that's hit a certain milestone can definitely come back and play any size of show, but you need to have like fresh blood in the mix of always, and especially on the younger side. It can't just be like, hey, all the old heads like got together to do this like super group, but realistically their schedules don't align, so they might just play one show and then never do anything again. It's the young kids that have time on their hands. They have less responsibilities. But yeah, I agree that it is, and just hardcore in general, it's like you have to fight for it, I was just thinking about, as you said, like there are certain scenes in North America and other places in the world where it's just like it can go to cruise. Like it can go into neutral. Like you think of New York or Florida or like Los Angeles, like any of those like huge hubs that have just heaps of history. When you're in certain places that aren't as accessible, like you were saying, to tour to, whether it's Australia or even up here in Western Canada, we have the same problem. You have to fight for it. You have to constantly be pushing for, reaching out to bands and being like, hey, like what can I do to get you out here, and like thinking of ways to like promote shows in a different way, like documenting like sets and putting them out so people can see that, and like hopefully that brings in new people. So yeah, I think like for a scene to thrive and you're up against the wall, you need to fight for it. You can't just like, if you just fold over, it's gonna crumble on your watch. And I think
exactly
both you or I are like, nah, like I love this shit too much to let that fade away on my.
I mean, just doing a pod in itself, and all the scheduling, all the time that goes behind it, it's such a big commitment. And the thing that I always say is like, it's so easy to just not do it at all. It's the easiest thing is just to do nothing, bro. To not do a zine, or to not go take photos and then upload it to Dropbox, or to not start a band. You know what I mean? It's just so easy just to chill, and be a normal person, right? So I definitely really come to realize the significance of everybody's contribution, of everybody's action. So what you're saying is exactly right, and you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So. Let's transition to the band Speed. So you're doing vocals in that band with a couple of the homies. Musically, I have to say your guys' stuff is like a real breath of fresh air, in my opinion.
Sick.
There's you guys have like kind of there's really no boundaries as far as like some parts are just like really heavy, kind of beat down, but some parts are like really groovy. Some parts are just like really, really fast. They're singing, like there's all this stuff in this call it the speed soup, and there's all these different flavors and
speed soup, yeah.
So just tell me about like, was that intentional for you guys? Or like we want to be able to tap into all these different things, or were the riffs just sick and you guys just wanted to play around with that?
I think that the way I write everything for Speed. I think that the way I write is that especially for speed, I have my set influences, and it's pretty much just made like 90s New York hardcore, So, um, and that's essentially just the real Bible for me. It comes back to like essentially just mostly 90s New York hardcore, right? Um, but I've never been a kind of person that kind of approach a band and just follow everything to a T, and never have like a template of how riffs and structure of a song and everything has to follow, So it has those influences, but then I allow it to breathe and grow, naturally within that. And I think that's the part of creating your own music, right? Is to take on influences and then allow them to flourish in ways. So I guess that's the product of it. So yeah, man, that's pretty much just the only approach. And the main thing as well is that it's just writing hardcore the way we want to hear it. That's literally just it. Just what do I want to hear in a hardcore song? How do I want to hear it put out there? And that's it. And so yeah, I mean, I think the blessing starting a band at this age. A lot of people kind of shy away from getting older and starting a new band because they're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna move on and do other stuff. Like I'm too old for this shit.
Right.
But the benefit of it is that like I've been in the game for so many years now. It's so much easier because it's like, okay, I know what I love, and let's just channel that into my own project.
Yeah, like, I've heard it from so many different people, so many different ways, as far as like everyone that's played and this goes for anyone listening or watching, every band that you see at a festival, at a show, they've all been in really shitty bands at some point.
Fucking oath. Yeah.
Of course. So, it's that constant repetition of like playing in a band and then like doing a bunch of shit with these different people, and then for whatever reason the band breaks up or whatever, you go to the next thing and you take what you learned from that project to the next thing. And like I'm on like band 7 or 8 in my entire like musical, existence, and like I feel like it was just such a streamlined process to like, okay, I know what I want to write. I know how production wise I want it to sound. I know how to like market this shit. Like it just becomes so much easier versus like you're 13 years old and you're like, how do I set up a Spotify? How do
Exactly. Exactly. What's your band called, bro? What's the band that you're in?
So I'll tell you, but I have to shout out to Jordan because he's giving me shit for always plugging my band on these podcasts now. But we're called
plug it.
Yeah, we're called Endgame. We're kind of like a thrash crossover band. I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah, nice. Hell yeah.
Shout out Wood. Yeah, so to transition to your band, so Speed put out a demo in November, and then you guys played your first show at the very end of that month, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I think the demo came out 2 weeks before the first show. So yeah, I think it was November. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what was crazy is when I was like kind of doing the research for you guys. So your second show was at a festival in January of this year that that Sonny was coming out to film, and I remember him posting your guys' like a teaser of your guys' set, and I was just like, oh yeah, like I am into this. Out of Sonny's documentation, the 2 bands that he put me onto from that festival was you guys and Justice for the Damned.
Oh, word. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very sick metalcore band. But I wanted to ask you because, I'm not trying to say like an archivist like myself or Sonny is going to like put one clip of a band and then like it explodes. There's so many different facets going on. So I'm just kind of curious on what your did you get this huge surge of people following your account after he posted that? Like what was the aftermath of call it the Hey 5-6 effect?
I think that there was definitely some great attention. Like it got a lot of looks, especially that was our second show. And that show that we played was actually a side show. So it was the pre-show to the festival. It was a festival here called Invasion Festival. Yeah. So we played the pre-show, and that was we opened, and Terror headlined that show. But Yeah, there was definitely some good looks, and we got obviously great reach and everything. The thing is that like when Australians heard that Ricky was coming out here, and all of our friends' bands were like playing a lot of these side shows because that festival coincided with a Jesus Piece and like Knock Loose and like a Terror tour and stuff like that. So there was all these bunch of side shows that heaps of our friends' bands were playing. We were like, fucking oath, this is like our chance to show everybody like what we want to do, what we're doing out here. You know what I mean? Right. So everybody was definitely G'd, and there was definitely a huge atmosphere of excitement. It definitely raised the profile for the shows here because everyone knew about Hate 56 and that these shows were being filmed. So I think, especially from an Australian perspective though as well, to see all of our friends bands and local bands up there, it was a huge sense of pride, and I think it definitely injected a huge amount of enthusiasm amongst just people in general in the Australian hardcore scene because it's just dope to see it, like especially being in Australia, man. Like we have this thing, I don't know how it is in Canada, but like just naturally you look to America as the forerunners for hardcore. It's just the origin, it's the mecca, for this kind of stuff. So we look to them for everything, like shows and bands and like what trends happening next and that kind of thing, and with this kind of like sense of reverence. And Hate 56 is the spot, so for us to be present there, I think it was a big deal for Australia.
Yeah, and yeah, like it's I've said it on this podcast before where there's like, I'm sure when Sonny's like, hey, I'm coming to film this fest or this show or this tour in like X amount of months, there's a little bit of heads up because he's trying to promote that. Like if it was my band, I'd be like, okay, we're gonna have our shit like on point, like it's gonna be, we're gonna have all our homies just go off and just make it just the best representation of our band, or at least try to. But for any shows that he's filming locally, it might just be like, I got nothing going on tonight, I'm gonna go film this show down the street, and then these people are like, oh yeah, we're just playing this whatever gig, and then Sonny's there, and then they're maybe not as practiced or whatever. So
for sure,
yeah. But I think like, if you see that coming up, like planning to like, whether it's like, okay, like let's throw something in our set that's just gonna just be so just crazy, or like let's get all our homies together and be like, okay, we have to make this the best thing because his reach is just, it's crazy.
I know with a lot of our friends' bands that we all played, like it wasn't like this coordinated thing, like let's go off for each other and let's like make it look good. Like there was just everybody here. We in Australia, man, we've been dying to have a chance and to show people what we've got because we believe in what we do, and we know that we've got a lot of really dope bands out here. And so for us, it was just like, we're just gonna go off to our friends' bands just like we always do, you know what I mean? But it's a chance to show everybody what the Australian style is, I guess. So we all just had this collected sense of excitement and just being G'd.
Yeah, it can be very sussed out when it's like, oh, like all these people are moshing really hard, but they actually aren't seasoned vets in the mosh pit or things like that. Like no one's planning that. It's just like, okay, like we see this, we need to go off for our scene. That's really the end of it.
And that's such an important thing. I think like wherever you're from, I hope that people can be proud of like where they're from and have a good community behind them, because there definitely has to be a level of enthusiasm and support for your own people, and for where you're from if you want to see that grow, and it takes action, and it definitely takes a lot of it takes a bit of like commitment to work. As you said, it's like hard work to do this. It's you got to work hard to keep this stuff alive, and you do. It sounds a bit corny, like especially when I was younger, you hear like a lot of like youth group bands and like other classic hardcore bands just being like, we got to keep hardcore alive, and hardcore's dying, and like that kind of thing. But bro, you do, like, you got to work for it. You got to put in. You got to show up for your friends, and you got to show up for what you believe in.
Yeah, straight up. That's what I love to hear. So as far as so you guys put out that demo, played a couple shows, and then you guys were probably in the midst of recording the Flexi, and then that's kind of when COVID kind of hit, and then you guys were like, well, let's still put it out. Like, what was the thought process with that? I have to say that 2-song Flexi is insane. It flows so
Thanks, man.
nicely. I've been Devil You Know is like probably one of my favorite 2020 hardcore songs.
Oh, bro, thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. It's so sick to hear, especially with you, other side of the world saying that. I mean, like, we're very excited to do the band. We had a lot of plans this year, and that we definitely were very lucky to have a lot of offers for things come up. By the time, this is just we totally understand that this is the way the world works at the moment, and the world is a much, 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 much bigger place than any plans that we would have had as individuals, and so it's all good having things on pause. But with the Flex, it was we were approaching that as a promo tape, to bridge the demo to the next thing, and that was just us. When we say 2020 Flex, it's like saying, this is what we got. This is who we are. This is a bit of a taste, of what's coming. So we were always going to put it out for sure. We will just even despite the pandemic, because it's a great chance for people just to listen anyway when you can't even go to shows. But we were just super lucky that Flatspot were keen to work with us and make the most out of this thing, because we knew it was just 2 songs, and we were just gonna put it out through Last Ride Records, which is our record label here in Australia. But yeah, I guess it was a huge bonus having the Flatspot team kind of get behind us. So yeah, we just put it out, and I guess this period has just been about how can we keep people engaged. How can we keep engaged with people, and how can we kind of think outside the box and just be involved and keep the band, keep the wheels turning whilst there's just no physical interaction.
Right. Yeah. And I've chatted about this on past episodes as well. Is like there are bands that are literally just like kind of like they're just sitting and they're not really doing a whole lot. They're just kind of maybe they'll do like a little merch thing, or they might, whatever it is. But there are a lot of bands who are really taking this opportunity to, do cool collaborations with their friends. Like one of my friends in a local band here, they did a 4-way split, 2 bands in Western Canada, 2 bands in Eastern Canada. So I thought that was very, very sick. There's bands doing podcasts like this, bands doing live sessions, live streams. And I just think it's like why not? Like what's the hurt in like just giving more in a different way that you just can't give in a local in a live show right now.
Of course, yeah, of course. We're definitely very lucky to be able to do that, and everybody in this climate now where everything is just fucked. I think the biggest thing is like people, you got to be kind to yourself, because we're literally in a pandemic. Like the stuff is shut down. Life is not normal, so we're very privileged to be able to have the space in our lives and the access to resources and just the ability to keep functioning, and do things like this. So if you can, do it. Like I suggest, you do whatever you can. But at the same time, it's just a great opportunity to approach things differently. Everybody is in a weird position, so there are no rules at the moment. No one's been in this. Hardcore is this kind of thing where you got the 87 demo, and you follow that and you write that to a T, and then you just, we just recycle and reappropriate the same thing. And, that's generally how a lot of hardcore works. It's not really different. It hasn't really changed that much in the last 20, 30 years. But we're now in a time where hardcore's never really seen this. We've never really stopped for this, So there's no rules. And I think that that can be a bit of a barrier sometimes, of like, oh, it's a bit weird to do a live stream, or is it, there's not really like a whole thing to like just drop merch, without playing shows. But like, there's no fucking rules, and it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
And people are out there wanting to go to shows and wanting to be involved and, missing this stuff. So whatever you can kind of do to stimulate some excitement for other people, I think is just adding in general. So.
Yeah, like it was pretty funny. The first live off the floor session that we did, which is kind of like our our way of filling that like live stream, but not actually live. It's like pre-recorded, but like we cut it and mix it and do all the 9 yards to make it nice and mint. The first one we did, the vocalist, shout out to Mike from Cold Shoulder. He was he jumped in the chat and he's like, "Yo, 40 people are here. Sometimes that's more than actual shows."
40 people to shows a dope show.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, like not getting bummed out of like, oh, who's gonna tune in for this? It's like probably some people, you know, and just you know, trying stuff and you know, doing a stream or doing a live session of some kind, and it doesn't go the way that you want it to. That's okay. At least you did it. And
it was to have, you know, the speed like as a project, to actually have something to focus on, and it's other and the other projects that I'm involved with as well, to have that, because it's very easy, especially in this time, you know, you see, to be so isolated and to fall into different mental states, and you know, to kind of get down by that. But even just the actual fact alone of having something to look forward to and have something to kind of channel some energy into goes a really long way. I know in my life, and I know in the band's life, and just having a live stream, you know, for example, and getting together to record for it, and like, you know, keeping writing music, and even just the social aspect of having a more of a reason to kind of work towards something with your homies goes a very long way in these kind of times. So
yeah,
I'm very just grateful for that, and it's just such a blessing and a bonus that there's people out there that are also behind that. You know what I mean? So it's just like an amazing vehicle just to have. And Flexi, like, we were so lucky that yes, pandemic hit, but we went into this period of uncertainty with no actual idea at all of when we're going to come out of it. But we came into this period with a release. It's like, well, everybody's locked down, and you know, for a minute, everybody's like, you know, confined literally to their houses. But we're sitting here with 2 songs that we can put out, where we can actually do stuff. Where there's probably a whole lot of bands that were like, oh, we're gonna go into the studio in like maybe July, and we're writing for that, and like that's probably gone out the window now, you know, because whatever. So in the grand scheme of things, we're very lucky to have a resource that we could just kind of plan about and put out there.
Yeah. I know bands in my circles, in just the overall sphere of things, that are like either just sitting on their album egg, and they're just like waiting to like tour on those. And you have to be smart. Like, you can't just like put out like 7 releases in this like pandemic, and then people aren't gonna know like what songs do I mosh to? Like, is it this one, or is it whatever? But
yeah.
you know, just trying new things, like you said. I wanted to touch on that because you brought it up. So you guys recently, like just in the last few days, you did a stream kind of session. Was that pre-recorded and then just like premiered, or how did that work?
So So we played a live set in at the Chameleon Studios, which is an awesome recording studio run by our best friend Elliot Gallart, like here in Sydney. And we went in there and we did a live session, like with live performers, and then Ricky or Flat Spot were able to hook it up with SOS Bookings, who've been doing the Sunday matinees. And yeah, it was just dope. They paired us up with Hoya from Madball, and it was sick. We got that played there. So it was a live set, but it just wasn't live at the time. And I guess I think at SOS Bookings, like obviously being there, the bands that are playing, they go into this like play live. But obviously, we're not doing that.
Yeah. No, I thought that was very, very cool that you guys got to, you know, connect with them, because, like, it was interesting because Sonny put out it was like a poll on Instagram, and he was asking, do you care if it's like live? Like, fuck it, we'll do it live. Like Saturday Night Live, like it's actually live. Like things can go wrong, like all of that. Or do you care if it's pre-recorded and, you know, we took some time to doctor it up a little bit, and it was literally a 50-50 split. And that for me was like, okay, I'm gonna just have too much anxiety doing like a full-on live session kind of shoot. So, but I know that I can knock it out of the park doing a pre-recorded set, get the audio professionally mixed, you know, create like an actual event around premiering that video versus like, all right, here we go. And yeah, I just don't have the resources for that, frankly.
For sure. And it's definitely, you know, a few more steps involved to fully live stream it. We would be totally down to do it. It's just that we'd gone into this with like, we just want to film a live video, like a live studio session. Like we put these 2 songs out. We can't play shows. We want to show people that we can put, like how it looks like when we perform these at least. So let's just go do it. And we're so lucky to have access to a studio and everything. So we did that. And as I said, but we just got it hooked up to be on through SOS bookings, and yeah, it was cool to have that platform.
Yeah. So let's touch on just the connection points between Australia and kind of like call it the Western world as far as North America is concerned, because you were mentioning like you guys are fighting really hard as a community to really show like, hey, like hardcore in Australia is sick, and I hope that you know this podcast is a small part of that, but even if you just want to have the floor to just tell people like, you know, even if there's a misconception about like Australia, like music as a whole that you want to break, like anything that you want to say on just like what is the, like maybe the right question is, what is the biggest struggle for you guys on a hardcore scene aspect?
The biggest struggle, have a very diverse culture here. That's our strength, you know. I think that one preconception is that maybe people don't realize how Australian hardcore exists. I think that very commonly between any different societies, we have preconceptions about how things operate or what a society looks like in other countries, you know. And I think one of the general preconceptions about Australia is that we're all just like hard yakka bogans, we're all Crocodile Dundee, we've got fucking kangaroos in our backyard, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what, like, maybe a lot of people think about Australia, you know, but I'm fucking Asian, bro. Look at me, like, I'm Chinese. And we have a very diverse cultural makeup across, especially in Australia, and that's a big part of our strength, you know. We're very multicultural. And I think as well, because we're obviously we're a Western country, but because we're isolated, we do have a bit more of a unique culture. And in terms of the landscape, just in the actual geographical landscape, you know, Australia's a very different place to Western Canada, right? And that has implications onto how we experience the scene and what we have to offer, and you know how shows kind of manifest here. And it's just whatever you think is unique about Australia, you know, that all the unique aspects which make up our country, you know, are also just as unique for the hardcore scene, but just in a different way. And we've got awesome bands here, and I think if we would talk about what's the biggest struggle in terms of actually, you know, thriving, I think it's the isolation. It's the fact that we're so far removed from America and Europe and, you know, North America, just geographically, that when you're taking a style and you're running with something that has its own hub, like America, America has its own. You don't need to worry about other bands outside of America because you guys have all of the fucking sickest bands. Like, you guys made your own style. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's been a part of Australia's journey is discovering what our actual identity is and how we can put that on a plate for people to have. But like, yeah, there's some awesome bands here. Like, shout out Last Ride Records, shout out Life Layer Regret Records, shout out Best Wishes Records, shout out Resist Records. Like, check out these labels. The bands on these labels are awesome. And there's more and more new demos that are coming out, and more new bands that are starting, especially now in COVID. And yeah, I just think, yeah, this podcast as well definitely plays a little bit of a role in getting this exposure out there. Because,
of course, yeah.
Because yeah, like, the other thing is, like, you know, it's just what you said about Hey 5-6, you know, like, that is a big deal for us. You know, we really think that as a big deal because it's just like that recognition on an American platform. It's like, well, like, you know, it's cool to just have that kind of a tip of a hat. When Speed collaborate with Flat Spot, like, that was a massive thing for us. That was huge. Like, not many Australian bands have ever really worked with many proficient American labels before, you know. So it's a huge thing for us to be recognized like that. band from Sydney here called Primitive Blast. Like, in my opinion, the hands down the best from Australia. They just signed to Triple B. They've toured America twice. Yeah, so their 7-inch just came out in Triple B, and things are coming up, bro. Like, it's dope, but it definitely goes a very long way here. Like, we feel very grateful for any kind of I guess, yeah, anyone who wants to put us on from outside our borders.
The gratitude is oozing from you, Jim, as you're talking. But yeah, I can clearly tell that you're in it for the music, and clearly recognize that every little thing really matters, and you're doing your best clearly to make sure that is expressed. Just on the going back to Australia and just kind of like the difficulties around just being isolated, is it harder for bands to come to Australia to play, or is it harder for bands from Australia to come to places like the States or Canada or this, that, or the other?
I think they both have their difficulties. I think they're both a difficult thing, in different ways. It's I would say it's almost easier for bands to come here because there's so many bands there everywhere else, and there's a scene here that wants bands to come. So it's easier for it's almost. Sorry. I guess it depends what you, in terms of hardcore. It is okay. In terms of hardcore specifically, yes, it is difficult for bands to come here. Actually, sorry, because it's expensive. But the reason why I say it's easier is because we have promoters that will want to bring you guys. We want to bring bands out here. Like we want bands to come here. So there's an enthusiasm, and there's kind of a, almost kind of like there's like a gap at the moment where there's not many bands that are coming. There's not many bands in general, here. So there's a opportunity for people to have the spotlight, and for in any way. So that in itself is a pro for coming to Australia. But I think it's hard for bands to leave here as well. Like, as I said, there's not many bands in Australia that have really worked with American labels or toured America or been recognized overseas in a very significant way. And it's because we are isolated. And as I said, again, it's because, like, why would you look to another country when you have everything at your own doorstep? You know what I mean? Right. That kind of mentality. So I think in my experience as well, it has been very hard to get to America, at least in previous bands. But with Speed, at least, like it's been dope because it seems that we've been getting a lot of love in America, and you're part of the world, and that's been like fucking very humbling. It's been very sick. So
yeah, and I think like there's so many things, like there's some similarities on the Canada aspect. Like Mighty, my dog is just crying. Mighty,
what's up?
On Canada, we are next door neighbors to the States, but this is a non-COVID world. But like, getting visas to go down and play there isn't the same for bands to come up to see us versus we go down there.
That's right.
So there's things like that in Western Canada where I am specifically. Places are just spread so far out. So a lot of people who are booking tours will only do like Detroit and then dip up to Toronto and then right back down and go to New York and New Jersey. But it's a longer leg to do Western Canada. So
for sure,
yeah,
a similar thing here, man. Because like for example, the next capital city, the next biggest city where there's a hardcore scene, really essentially, is Melbourne, and that's a 10-hour drive from here. And then the next closest one up, the other closest one is going to be Brisbane, which is 12 hours north, like the opposite direction. And in between that, there's some small cities like Canberra is in between Sydney and Melbourne, but like most tours will not be going there because there's not really much of a scene there, unfortunately. There's a few bands for sure, but yeah, so it's geographically, like, Australia is obviously such a massive body of land,
right? And
like a city like Perth, for example, that's the most isolated city in the world, like as a fact. So that's the same thing. Like it's that also is a huge challenge for us.
Sure. Maybe it's just my non-privileged Western Canada nature, because when you say 10-hour drive, I'm like, that is the distance from here to Regina, which is, if you're going what direction? East. But like, Calgary's a little bit different because you can go 3 hours north and go to Edmonton, which is a major city. But we're really, really spread out at times. And and
sounds very similar.
Yeah, yeah, which is interesting. But was there ever a time where an American band did come do a tour that wasn't like a big festival or some kind of thing that like just really like just stuck with you?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not like we don't have like Australia doesn't have the music landscape where we have touring like festival seasons essentially for like hardcore. Like it's in like Europe you have your summer festivals and like you can go and you can do a circuit and like they have that kind of industry there. We don't have that. So like the hardcore tours that come here are just essentially I guess it's similar to hardcore tours that just go through there. They just come through and play capital cities or whatever and we'll be lucky if we have a festival, like very lucky. Uh, but yeah, in terms of bands that have come out, I mean, man, like we were really looking forward to the Trapped Under Ice. We meant to tour here in April, and obviously that didn't happen. But like, man, when they came out last time, 2012, it was fucking insane. That was just when Big Kids Goodnight had just come out, and just yeah, that last TUI tour was insane, and there's a lot of bands that have come through which have done like awesome things. That the shows that Terror just played, oh, that was through a festival, but the side show that Terror just played, like that Speed played at the start of this year, that was like one of the best hardcore shows I've ever been to. And it got us really G'd for the year ahead because there's been a sense of, as I said, that like, yeah, hardcore kind of had a dip, but there's definitely been a very big atmosphere of like excitement and a lot of hope for hardcore here in Australia because it's turning a tide. But yeah, anyways, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I hope there's one band who listens to this podcast and then a few years down the line they're like, you know what, we're just gonna roll the dice and just do this Australia thing. And like I've heard it like time and time again from so many people like that they actually go to Europe and do something, or they come up to Canada and do something, and it doesn't need to be like the craziest shows, but just seeing the communities, seeing those scenes and how they support the bands that come through is like, to me, that's the glue that keeps hardcore so prominent in my life. So
yeah, definitely. Especially like that's what gets me most That's the thing. That's what I'm most excited about in hardcore now is seeing how it manifests in different societies, especially those where you would not expect it to thrive. For example, like there's a couple of the bands that I'm like really excited about at the moment. It's this band from Singapore called Fuse, and it's like essentially like an all girl hardcore band, kind of like Boston kind of stuff.
Okay, I've seen that. How did they spell their name? Is it Fuse?
Yeah, Fuse,
okay.
like a light fuse. Yeah.
Okay, because there is a band from here in Calgary called Fuse, but they have a Z instead of the S.
Ah, okay, yeah, with an S, and I mean, I'm just so G'd on that because they're from Singapore. It's like 4 Muslim girls like in this band, just doing such an awesome, rendition, and also they've got so much swag, man. They're like they're so sick, and that's to me is like the most exciting thing now. It's like seeing other parts of the world have their own scenes, and with that they bring their own identities, and especially for someone who has Asian ethnicity, seeing representation in different bands is such an important thing. And I know not just for me, but for everybody, this topic of representation is definitely more at the forefront nowadays, and that is what gets me most excited. Like, obviously the music's got to be there too, but seeing just different forms of where everybody's seen 5 white dudes playing a hardcore band for forever. So seeing different things is it's really important, but also really cool.
Yeah, and seeing bands like Zulu come up.
Yeah, man, Zulu is dude, exactly. I put Zulu and Fuse kind of like in a similar thing, like just a band with a mission, a band that's got its own identity.
Man, that couldn't have been said better. Band with a mission. That's so sick.
Yeah, man, and it's fucking awesome because it really also, the other thing about that is that it really communicates that hardcore is so much more significant than what you might perceive it to be, because as I said, like we're at this age and we're still in it and we still dedicate so much of our time into this thing, like this stupid thing that no one else would understand. Like, I'm a teacher as my day-to-day job. Like, my students and like my colleagues and stuff wouldn't have no fucking concept or idea or how to process that I go to just bash my best friends, and just jump on their heads and fucking play power chords on the weekend. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no way they could ever understand that. But for me, it's like all I can really think about.
Right.
And that has to have some weighting, I think, and then to
What
see it being harnessed as like a tool, like the way that Zulu uses it, Fuse uses it, and other bands kind of use it. Like again, it's like it's so powerful, right? So.
Right. We can't finish this podcast without talking about you being a teacher for a quick second. What grade do you teach?
I'm a classical flute teacher. So I'm a music teacher essentially. Yeah. So I actually teach all grades. I teach from grade 3 to grade 12, so to the end of high school. So yeah, mostly primary school.
That is the last thing I expect to come out of your mouth.
I live in two worlds,
the
bro.
gnarliest, like hardcore vocal guy, just and just all right. Everyone, get your flutes out.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Dude, that is sick.
I live in two worlds. It's like, but I mean, I do. I literally do. Like, I have a degree in like a bachelor of flute performance from the conservatorium here, and I just fell into teaching through that, and like it's such a blessing. I love working with kids. I love having being able to have a job where you're able to have like a significant influence, and it's fun, bro. But again, it's this thing about identity and all that, like, and the thing I've learned about the Australian experience, and even just bringing it back to something like Parkway, being like bodyboarders who just went on to play in this metal band and just fucking conquer the world. Like,
Of course, yeah.
you don't have to. That kind of spelled out a picture for me that like you can have your own story, and your own story is what makes you unique. And I fucking play the flute, and I also play in speed. And like that's my identity. You know what I mean? And I'm Asian.
Has any of your students been like, "Is this you?" in like some Hey 5 6 video or anything like that?
Not for speed. Speed's a very new thing, and I've consciously tried to make sure that I do not have my thing. For my I play in another band called Endless Heights. I play guitar in that, and that's a band that we've been around for a long time and like toured a lot. And yeah, a few students have like come to lessons and been like, okay, so what is Endless Heights? I don't know. I'm like, no!
You're like,
I found out my secret.
I'm trying to keep this shit separate.
That is really
don't
funny. Tell anybody, all right?
But no, that's a huge thing. The huge reason why I'm doing this podcast, honestly, is just showing like people can be like super into hardcore, and they can be like super into teaching. They could be super into BMX. They could be super into like making crap. Like that's kind of what we all come together to like for the love of this really weird heavy music. But you could like discover like, oh, I actually also draw, or I actually also play soccer, or whatever it is. So that is
for sure.
Sick.
I think one of the things as well that like has kind of impacted like it's like a lot of people's experiences like in hardcore is like a bit of like a gatekeeping mentality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's it's very common and all that, but I think that's there's always going to be an element of gatekeeping in hardcore because we're in an alternative culture. It's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be for everybody. That's why it exists, right? But at the same time, like, people shouldn't be ashamed to be to be who they are and for where they're from or what they're into just because they subscribe to this culture. You know what I mean? Sure, yeah. Like, and I think a lot of people kind of come into this, and you see a lot of people come through with insecurities and like a lot of baggage, and which is completely understandable. But I know for me, it's like I'm involved in this hardcore scene. I'm involved in the Australian hardcore scene. I don't know how it operates in other cultures, but in terms of my immediate circle and where I spend my time in, it's got to be a very inclusive and judgment-free kind of area where you just run your own style, and that's what it is. So in terms of Australia, I think this is how we're trying to curate, how it runs here. Like we're a very diverse makeup of different people, and try and kind of progress the culture a bit to be more inclusive in that way.
Yeah, and you're clearly passionate about hardcore gym, and you're very proud of where you grew up and what you represent, and just anytime I introduce anyone about hardcore and I just get that sense of passion from them, it just makes me want to just like get closer, because like I have this weird thing, and being in Canada can be like, oh, like I have a group of friends that are all about that, but like as soon as you hear other people talk about that in the same way, like, oh yeah, this guy gets it. So
That's what hardcore is, bro. That's what hardcore is. It's like it's its own thing. You don't even need, man. You can tour in Asia, you tour in Europe. Don't even speak the same language, but you just connect as if it's always been there, just because you have the same thing. That's why we do this, bro. It's like it's an infectious thing that you can't communicate.
Right. Yeah, and you've definitely sold it for me, whether it's me bringing my band or me just coming to film a series of shows, or bringing Speed here. That would also be very, very sick.
Hell yeah, dude.
But
So sick.
yeah, I hope that we get to make something in person happen. Before we wrap up, Jim, we have a reoccurring ending segment of this podcast. Just a favorite mosh story that you want to share.
Favorite mosh story.
And that could be anything from like, I did this crazy move once, or someone broke my back or ribs or whatever at this show. Whatever's the first thing to your mind.
Favorite mosh story. Oh man, favorite mosh story. Holy shit.
It's a big question.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, okay. Favorite mosh story. The one that firstly comes to mind, because it's you got me on impromptu here, bro. It's got to be The Others. It's a legendary hardcore band from Perth, Australia. They did a set at a festival we have called Break the Ice in 2014. It's probably Australia's like premier hardcore festival at this point in time. And The Others, they kind of sound like Mental and like Righteous Jams, kind of stuff. And they're awesome, and they have like this party vibe, and they played this set, and as soon as they came on, everyone knew like we were gonna run it for these. These are like some of my best friends as well. We're gonna run it for these guys, and as soon as they got on, bro, there was like one of our friends, Tom Hill, Tommy Bongs, shout out. He went and I think he spent $200 on like streamers and like party poppers and like all this other kind of party, just like all of this party equipment essentially, and just handed them out. And all of our homies are like 40 of us with all of these like streamers and like all that kind of stuff, sparklers and whatever. And as soon as they started playing, there was just balloons everywhere. There was just like streams going in the air, everything. Everyone's on stage. Half the guys have their shirts off. Like everyone's moshing like crazy and just being so silly and just like carrying on. But the sickest thing was that everybody was smiling, bro. Everybody was having such a good time. Like people were like diving on each other and stuff, and it was cool. And it was just, the vibe was amazing. And I've got to say that's probably one of the best shows I've ever been. I've never experienced a set that was like that, where it was just so much fun and just nothing else but just fun, you know. And I think, that's got to be the one, probably. You can look it up. It's called The Others Break the Ice 2014 on YouTube.
Okay,
you'll see it.
My follow-up question was, I hope someone got that on video, because I would love to actually see it.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Gonna look at that after. Well, Jem, this has been an hour-long, a beautiful conversation. I love hearing about new places in the world of hardcore, as well as, like, hopefully putting on for you guys just a little bit, just to kind of give any of my audience a little bit of an idea of what that's like, and how we can hopefully move into a direction where more bands are being started there and just touring. Any handles, things you want to plug, people you want to shout out before we wrap up?
Shout out Last Right Records, as I said. Shout out Flat Spot. Shout out Ricky from Flat Spot, fucking legend, hooking all this up, taking a chance for Australian hardcore. And anything speed related, just ask Gang Called Speed on Google. But, you know, as I said, those labels, go check them out. Yeah, just Google it. We're out. Well, because speed is a very, you know, you're going to come up with so many different things if you just type it in. So it's Gang Called Speed is the one.
Yeah.
Gang Called Speed.
Gang Called Speed forever. Jem, thank you so much for jamming with me, brother. And you have a good day, and I will end my day, because that's how.
You have a good night, bro.